some people aren't going to like what you say, how you say it, what you
Right.
represent. It just is what it is.
Get rid of some of those beliefs that we gathered along the way when we were growing up that aren't serving us, and
Yeah.
it's not something we should hold on to.
Everybody goes, I'm being myself. It just doesn't feel like they're not comfortable. But there's a couple things that are probably taking place. Looking into a lens with a red dot flashing is uncomfortable no matter who you are.
Introverted people, they tend to be better on camera,
Yeah.
and then the ones that are good in person struggle
They
more.
struggle on. The creativity came in with being able to tell the story without, oversharing or compromising the house in any kind of way.
I think the biggest thing that I help them with is just showing up.
Yeah.
Like, really? It's like just pull out the phone and record something and then getting them to see what makes them special.
My biggest piece of advice is to not move unless God tells you.
Welcome back to Create with Kate. I'm your host, Kate, and I have the Justin Berry with me today. I'm so excited. I've been wanting to do this podcast for, months now.
Yeah.
I've been asking you.
We've been playing this for a while.
Yeah, and I finally got you.
Yeah, and we're
now.
only across the hall from each other, too.
I know, it's crazy. But
wild.
we get busy, so, But we got to make time for content,
That's right.
which is what this podcast is all about, talking about prioritizing your personal brand because of the impact that you can have and, how that affects you, in your business.
Yeah.
So I saw the video you posted, I think it was yesterday.
Okay.
And you said something like, people don't want that internet talk.
Yeah.
I think that's how you said it.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I like that.
Yeah, it's a variation
Yeah.
of that. Like, and what I'm referring to is just people feel like they have to be extremely polished
Yes.
before they post something. Right? And most people aren't like relatable to that polished of a person, right? So like how many perfect people do you know? How many excellent and experts do you actually know in your day to day? It's it's more relatable to just be yourself and be real, when you're
Right.
on camera. So in that moment, I was really referring to the authenticity of an individual as they begin to post their content.
I know, I loved it. I hadn't heard it said that way before, and I thought, oh, that's a good way of putting it. Like, because authenticity is so, we hear that all the time, right? But it's like, I think sometimes people struggle to really understand they always struggle, really. This is like a hot topic because when you sit down to look at the camera and film, it's almost like your voice just like changes into internet tone or something.
Yeah.
So it's like, what tips do you have for people to break free from that?
Yeah, well, and let me expound on that too, because I think people need to understand, like, when they're thinking of authenticity, right? Everybody goes, I'm being myself. It just doesn't feel like they're not comfortable. But there's a couple things that are probably taking place. One, you don't truly know who you are under normal circumstances.
Yeah.
Which could be one reason, right?
good.
Like figuring out who you actually are and where your value and your place is in what you're doing. The other point could be that you may have a good idea of who you are. You just don't, you're dealing with some imposter syndrome too.
Yeah.
Right? Where you haven't quite got comfortable with being the authority figure that you are in your space.
Yeah.
And then there's that last feat where, it can essentially be a situation where I only get awkward in front of the camera. And I'm here to tell you, like, that's everyone starts there, right?
Yeah.
Like, that is how everyone that has any type of influence online and doing what they're doing has started, kind of awkward and not completely understanding of how to do this.
Yeah.
Right? But it just takes the reps, right? Like,
Right.
looking into a lens with a red dot flashing is uncomfortable no matter who you are and no matter how many times you've done it. It only takes the reps that you go, okay, I don't necessarily care about how uncomfortable I am. In that manner. So that's just kind of how it goes.
Yeah,
and
I think
shout out to my team for not telling me I still have my AirPod in starting this episode. Like, that's
I know,
crazy.
and I didn't tell you either.
Yeah, what is
I thought maybe it was like a look.
I'm supposed to be the pro here,
It's like
right?
a vibe,
So
one
funny.
AirPod. So let's talk about how, to that point, like, you don't like to listen to yourself on video.
No,
And I think that would surprise people.
What you're referring to too is I always tell people, like, I've never actually listened or watched a full episode of mine,
Yeah.
and I just don't. I think that if I didn't have control over, you know, these YouTube pages and these audio platforms to be able to unlist it or delete it, I probably would listen. But you're always going to be your own worst critic in
Right.
these situations. And so for me, I'll listen to something and I don't like the way I said it, or I don't like the way I sound. I may not like the way I looked, and then I'm deleting, right?
Yeah.
And because I have that power to do that with this platform, I don't put myself in that situation. It's like, no, just let it be there. Like, let it go. Eventually, I know I'm gonna get over that too. Like, I'll be able to watch it and critique myself, and and be able to do that. Like, there's been times where I have turned it on in the car,
Okay.
um, and maybe just kind of like, but really, then I was listening for the
Mhm.
quality, not
Yeah.
necessarily what I was saying.
Okay.
Right, I was kind of wanting to hear what the work that we're putting out,
Yeah.
right, and how we can improve it. So that was more of a from the production side. But yeah, I don't, and I think everybody that is struggling with how they look and feel online
Mhm.
to other people should just let it go, like, and don't even worry about it. Like, now I post stuff, I don't even care. Like, if
And
there's
your
haters
page
there, I
has
don't know it.
grown.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot. Do you feel like some of the videos that maybe you don't love, how you look or sound, do well?
Those are always the ones that do the best.
Okay.
I mean, and anybody that will sit in front of you and tell you like they know exactly what goes viral and
Yeah.
exactly what does well, it's not true. Right? Like, we're all just throwing stuff and seeing what sticks, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's how the game is played. Now, there are strategies and things that we add to that to give us ourselves a better chance. But to say I know, like, when I make this video, it's going, like, it's not real. All right, so don't believe anybody that tells you that, right? Like,
Yeah, like nobody really knows.
yeah, they don't really know. But I do think that the reason why those videos often do better is because it's usually coming from a place of, I'm just talking naturally, and I'm
Mhm.
actually being authentic to myself, which is probably why I don't like the way I look in that moment, or I don't like the way I sounded in that moment, or how I said it. Right? It's because it was just naturally me free flowing and talking normal. But
Yeah.
that comes off authentic, and people can read through that, right? Like, especially in video, right? Like, we
Right.
can manipulate photos all we want. I can make you look
Right.
however you want
That's
to
true.
with a photo, but when it comes to that video, it gets a little bit more difficult to do that. And so it's really valuable to kind of just be yourself, put it out there. You may not like it when it goes out, but release it. And now I've learned that if we're gonna put out one a day, yesterday's doesn't even matter, right? Like,
Right.
how I felt about it yesterday does not matter today.
We were talking about, those videos that you don't love the way you look or sound in, and how typically those are the ones that do well. And it's like, why is that? You
Yeah.
know?
It's interesting. Like, I think that happens in most cases where, like, you put something out and you may find something wrong with it, but it's always the one that does better than the one that you put the most work in.
Yeah.
And I just think it has to do with the authenticity, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's you being naturally you, right? So you may say something with a little bit different. Like, I know, like, I hear people tell me, like, I could tell you not from here because of how you talk.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's just like funny, like, hearing some of those words that we use. Like, people from Chicago don't pronounce R's at all. So I'm gonna go to the car or the store.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not gonna say store. I'm gonna say stove. All right, so
Uh-huh.
it's like those little pieces where I'm like, man, I wouldn't really put that out in front of in a professional setting.
Oh, interesting.
But it's also me being me, and so
Yeah.
it is extremely authentic in that space, and that's why you hear or why you see it does better. So I think people just have to get past that point of caring. And I always want to make the point that, like, if you're putting out one a day, or you're at the point where you're a great creator and you're putting out more than one piece a day, then that one piece that you didn't like doesn't even really matter.
Right.
Right? How I felt about yesterday's piece doesn't matter to what I'm trying to do today. I'm just trying to make sure that my next video is my best video.
Yeah, and I think like the biggest lesson for me throughout this process has been like, when we see people in person at the workshops and the events, and they ask questions and we say something that they get from the event,
Mm-hmm.
and you can see that it helped them.
Yeah.
So then it's like, okay, if there's a video that I don't like of myself, but so it helps someone, like that's really what it's all about. So I guess putting our ego maybe aside to
Mm-hmm.
just serve.
Yeah, you have to be selfless. If you're truly doing it for the right reasons, right?
Yeah.
Like, and there are different reasons. Like, let me not say even the right reason. Like, if you're doing it to serve
Yeah.
someone, then you got to kind of put yourself, second when it comes to that, and kind of let go of that ego and that pride of how you look and sound
Right.
to be able to release it. Like you will see content different the moment that you're able to focus on who you're serving. All
Yeah.
right, and that was clear for me when I first started the Wealthy Creator podcast and when I first started releasing stuff on Shorts, because I was like, all right, no matter what you wanted to do to prepare yourself for this, the time is now. And it
Yeah.
doesn't matter anymore about how you feel about it because people need it.
Right.
All right. And so once I got clarity on that and I got to that point, I was like, okay, Justin, like, forget what anybody has to say or how you feel about it. Really, just release and hope that people get some value out of it.
Yeah, I think that's in like what you said earlier in the beginning about how like knowing yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that honestly, I think that all ties into the faith aspect too. Like, I don't know, I sometimes feel like God speaks through me,
Mm-hmm.
and I think when you get closer to God, you get closer to who you were created to be.
Yeah.
And and so then it becomes easier and you don't care as much about the judgment and it is about service.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know, I think they kind of all go together, but I definitely think self-awareness and faith in something, other than yourself
Right.
is really important.
Yeah. I mean, you'd be a fool to think that it's you
Yeah.
that is seeing results.
Yeah.
Right. Like it has nothing to do with you.
Mhm.
Like you're actually the worst part of it, right? Like, but what God has created for you and the opportunity and the platform, uh,
Uh-oh.
what I don't know. It's been doing that all day. The internet has been
You
dropping.
know, speaking of authenticity, I have no voice. I had
I
a
know this is
coughing attack. This thing is
watch. We're gonna have great clips out of this though. Watch. It's gonna be
but
great.
we're still doing it.
Yeah. What was it? Did it just drop? All right, so we can expect that probably like 3 more times. Um,
Or did like the computer go to sleep?
no, it wasn't.
Or
No,
oh,
it was doing that for Ryan's too. It's weird.
okay.
Um,
You were talking about God and how it's not about us. It's like
yeah, like I said, I mean, to me, you just be a fool to think that it's about you and that you deserve the credit for what you're
Yeah.
creating and the influence that you're building, because it's never been about really you. And I feel like, in fact, I think I'm the worst part of this whole thing, right? Like, even when I came, when we did the WealthCon, this previous one, it was my first time doing main stage at
Yeah.
WealthCon. My only prayer leading up to that is that I don't fall on the stage going up. And like it's crazy. Like
Yeah.
I'm never concerned about talking in front of people.
Yeah.
Right? Like I've been okay. I play ball in front of thousands of people. So like I don't have a problem getting in front of people and talking or performing something, right? Like that's never been an issue. But I was like, please don't trip up these stairs as you going up.
Yeah.
The worst thing would be the fall coming out.
Right.
Right? Like you just
Yeah.
set the tone for the whole
Yeah.
35 minutes that you're up there. But then my other prayer was that one, God is able to speak through me,
Yeah.
right? Like literally take my words
Yeah.
and give whatever you have for these people in the room.
Right.
Like, and then I was like, I want people to also see God in me, right? Like
Oh, I like that.
I didn't want them to just see Justin up there
Yeah.
talking about content, right?
But to almost like see themselves too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is I think a reflection of if they can see God through you, to me that's like just a mirror for themselves too.
Absolutely. And so that's always the goal. And I feel that same way doing podcasts.
Yeah.
I feel that same way in any circumstance, even when we're out and going to other people's. Like we just came back from Andy Elliott's.
Yeah,
Spot. And
that's
it was really neat to see everybody. But it's funny now that the faith conversations happen naturally as people are intaking the content and learning
Yeah.
like what we're about. And so it's like, yeah, I want that to be the case though. Like I
Yeah.
want there to be more and more opportunities to speak on God and to deliver the message, right? Like that's what you want. So it's like all these things, like, yeah, you got to put yourself last in it, right? Like you really got to humble yourself and go, okay, how do I serve the individuals that are before me? How do I serve the individuals that are watching everything? And how do I continue to feed people what they need in that moment? You never know who you're impacting in the moment.
And that's I think the hard part and where people can probably overanalyze. And I think you can have strategy, but I almost feel like in the beginning, you just have to like throw stuff out there and then see what people want more of or something. I don't know if that makes sense, but
Oh
like
yeah.
it's like put all this stuff out there and then refine
Yep.
and then yeah, I don't know, just but like they overthink it.
It's an organized mess.
Yeah, it
So
is kind of.
think about it. It's like most of you all's bedrooms, right? Stuff is all over the place at times, but you know
Yeah,
exactly where it's at, right? And then with intention, you put it
we got
where it
a
belongs.
Marie Kondo.
Yeah.
Does it spark joy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you know what I mean? Like it's real. Like there's times where like I go in my son's room
Yeah.
and I'm like, dude, you got to get this stuff off the floor. And then I'll go, where's your,
And he
fill in
knows
the blank, and
exactly
he'll
where
go
it is.
straight to it. And it's like that
That's
is an
funny.
organized
Yeah.
mess, right?
Right.
And that's what this space is early on when you're in your early phase.
Yeah.
The mess is you just trying new things.
Right.
I'm gonna try interviews. I'm gonna try
Yep.
to entertain. I'm gonna try to educate. I'm gonna try to be vulnerable and tell my
Mhm.
story. I'm gonna try all these things that you're adding to kind of figure out what's gonna work on your platform. Because the truth of the matter is, the platform will tell you. Your audience will tell you what they want from you, and then it's
Sure.
gonna just be up to you to double down and give them what they're calling for. But when it comes to the early stages, it's like, yeah, I'm just gonna try a little bit of everything, and see what one I feel comfortable with.
Mhm.
Because whatever you're comfortable with is what you're willing to commit to.
Sure.
I was never comfortable with just looking into the lens and going,
Yeah.
that wasn't me,
Yeah.
right? I was never comfortable with that, but I can commit to having a conversation,
Right.
right? And I'll do that for 2 episodes a week on Wealthy Creator and get some shorts out of it and keep
Yeah.
it moving, right? Like that was what I was willing to commit to. So the comfortability is what got me there. So once you find what you're comfortable with, and then you start testing out other little things, and then the strategy doesn't necessarily come in until you have something that you're committed to, willing to continue to do,
Yep.
and now we can start refining it and really polishing it and figuring out what actually works. What's the competitor that is doing the same thing that you're doing in their space that's
Mhm.
working? Because that's what we need to pay
Yep.
attention to. Then we can take that and go, okay, that's working for her. This may make sense for Kate. Kate, are you comfortable doing something like this?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't really. Okay, let's figure out what exactly it's going to look like. And then the strategy just comes behind that in creating.
Yeah. How to like make it your own? Because I think some people with, doing the research on competitors,
Mhm.
what they struggle with is then they go down that like comparison. Oh, like, and then they get stuck.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, we don't want you to compare.
Yeah.
We want you to see what's working, and then what's like your take on that, right? Or
Comparison in any field of life kills
right.
every single time, because you'll never like the creator that you're comparing yourself with has been doing it for 10 years.
Yeah.
And there's no way to catch up with what they're doing in 10 years in the couple weeks that you posted 1 or 2 pieces.
Right.
Right. So don't compare yourself, right? In any kind of way, like in any manner of life, right? Like
Sure.
it's good to have competition, like compete.
Yeah.
I encourage competition at all times. Give yourself something to look at.
Mm-hmm.
That's what a lot of hate is, right? When you get the hate, like people it's because they're either comparing themselves and want to be that person.
Yeah.
In fact, we had Grant Cardone on Ryan's podcast.
Yeah.
He literally said that.
Right.
I hate these dudes, but it's
Yeah.
because I want to
But
be
he's
them.
inspired by them. Yeah.
Because I want to be them, right? Like
Yeah.
their net worth encourages me to keep going, to
Right.
try to keep building. And so it's the same thing, right? Find somebody who you kind of like relate to.
Yeah.
You're doing similar things, because that's most of your social media anyway. It's people that either you're inspired by or you want to
Right.
be more and more
For
like,
sure.
right? You're not following people that you don't want to,
That you don't like. Yeah.
it's just not. That's not the case. And so look at those individuals like with a different lens and go,
Mm-hmm.
okay, what path should I take that leads me to there? I know exactly who my competitors are, just like
Yeah.
I know exactly who inspires me, right? And believe me, if they say something really sharp, I'm gonna figure out how to say it
Yeah.
my way, right? Because of what it delivers to the audience.
Sure.
Your competitor's audience is likely going to be your audience as well, and
Yeah.
so you should be trying to deliver, A1 product that is really similar to what you've seen, with your spin on it.
Who are some of your favorites?
Oh man, I got so many favorites. I've been lucky too to have like friends that are some of my favorites.
Yeah. Like Omar.
like the Omar El Takoris.
Yeah. I like Omar.
Like even the path, right? Like Omar was early on. I was just telling Brian DeVilla this. I saw his videos way back when I was still living in Chicago,
Yeah.
just trying to figure out how to work
On
my
YouTube,
camera.
right?
Yeah,
Me too.
yeah.
That's when I first
So
saw
the
him.
so
And I didn't even know we were going to the same church.
yeah,
Oh, that
when
time.
I joined, I had no idea. Right, like
Yeah.
I wasn't looking for.
Yeah.
I didn't even know he was in Vegas.
Right.
Right, and in fact, it had been a long time since I had saw that video,
Yeah.
and it was actually my cousin that reminded me, like after he saw a picture of us together.
He's like,
I was
oh,
like,
that's
what
that
are you
guy.
doing with him? And
Yeah.
he was like, bro, we used to watch him 20. I mean, like,
Right.
I'm like, yeah. So it just it turned out like that was just God's full circle way
Right.
of showing me what
Connecting
was
you.
available to me. But like someone like him, I don't compare,
Mm-hmm.
because how can I compare when I was learning the camera while he was putting out his 300th video?
That's true. Yeah.
Right? That doesn't make any sense to do that, right?
Yeah.
Did me knowing him and having that relationship accelerate my growth? Sure.
Yeah.
Which it should, right?
Yeah.
Especially if he operates the way he does, palms up, right? It should accelerate it. And I try to do that for other people that are around me as well. Like, y'all don't know, like the guys that are on my team have no idea what the struggle of filming a wedding with a T5i camera with a kit lens and, one battery. They have no
Yeah.
idea what it looks like to film an 8-hour wedding with that, right? Because they're
Yeah.
getting professional, the top of the line stuff to work with. So it's like, yeah, you shouldn't have to go through that if I did, right?
Yeah.
Like you want to keep improving. But as a competitor, I'm looking at that and I'm going, okay, here's what he did to start. He started making content.
Yep.
And then he started to perfect the craft, right? Continue learning and figuring out how to do these things. Build upon that growth,
Yeah.
right? And then it went in phases, right? Then he got with a Sean Cannell who can
Yep.
really help him grow and develop as a speaker, as a coach,
Yeah.
a mentor, like all these things. Like he got around other mentors. All right, that's the game plan. All right, I'm gonna go study this,
Yep.
get the information. Then I'm gonna go find someone that can be a mentor to me,
Yeah.
right? And then I'm gonna go, okay, what's next? And I'm just paying attention. All right, now you start to shift and you start to figure out how I can kind of develop my own branding
Mm-hmm.
separate from what is, the company, because it only helps the company too.
Yeah.
All right. Then we start to develop even more. Then I can start releasing my own products and start doing my own, like,
Yeah.
these are all phases that you kind of go through, right? And it wasn't just him. I watched other creators that are considered, the competition, considered in the same, or that are in the same niche.
Yeah.
They all doing the same thing. Like
Yeah,
there
so
is a
just
game plan, right?
follow the framework or
That's
the
it.
blueprint. Yeah.
That's it. This is what makes Ryan and Grant Cardone's relationship so good.
Mm-hmm.
It's because what Grant has done at 50 years old or whatever
Yeah.
age he's at, Ryan has started that path at 32,
Right.
33. And so the growth should happen faster.
Yeah.
Right? Like it should be that way, especially when you got somebody to connect with that can give you some guidance. And so, yeah, you never know. Like that person that you're watching now, comparing yourself to,
Yeah.
may end up a mentor.
Totally.
You
I
know?
think that's like, obviously, that's huge having the mentors. And that's what's cool about a podcast. Like, I know Ryan was saying that he loves podcasting because it's like he's getting this, coaching session.
Yeah, it's
really.
a consultant without
Yeah.
being a consultant.
Right. Which is so cool. But going back to Omar's videos, I was thinking, when I was watching his videos, and it was on YouTube way back when, but they were very simple, right? Like he really simplified whatever he was teaching.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like a setting on your iPhone
Yeah,
or something
yeah,
to film. And I think with a lot of our students, they tend to struggle with the simplicity. Like they think they have to deliver like a bunch of stuff in
Right.
one video.
Right.
And it's like, honestly, you don't. It could just be one simple thing you're teaching
Yep.
that is providing value, and something that you probably think is common sense or, something people know is they don't know and they need that.
Yeah, the one thing Erwin McManus taught me when we got a chance to sit down and do a podcast, and we were kind of talking afterwards, is that you take the most complex piece of your business or of whatever it is, whatever your expertise is, you take that piece and you make it digestible to like your social media is literally your book for dummies. Take your business, take your organization, take whatever it is that you're an expert in, and dumb it down enough that most people can understand it, right? And like you talk about with Omar and even Erwin, like it's such a there's some complex, information and things that are going out, but they take it and dumb it down enough that the layman's person can understand it. And so it's like once you get good at that, and then you start mastering your hooks, and you start mastering. like the engagement pieces that you add within within the content.
Yeah.
That's when you realize like, okay, yeah, I got this understood a little bit better now, and I know how to make a piece that is attractive to people, but also provides the value.
Right. I was watching this creator talk about uh how it's important to have like a similar spot that you film in, um, or a prop or something that is recognizable
Yep.
about you,
Yep.
or even if it's like you wear the same hat or something. And I was like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
You know, and I do a lot of creators that I follow. They do
that.
have something like that.
Mhm.
You know.
Yeah, it's also why like I always encourage people to have a set, right? Like
Yeah.
get whatever. If it's home, then it's your office. Figure out what you want it to look like, so that people that on the scroll will know that's you.
They'll recognize.
Like you
oh,
recognize
that's
Ryan's
the set.
podcast set,
Right.
no matter what, right? Like,
Right.
even though I'm not even gonna say any names, there's some people that are mimicking the set.
Yeah.
But I've like it's cool because it's like, nah, we know that's
Yeah.
our piece set, and so it's the same thing. Like people know I'm gonna have a hat on,
Right.
Like they can
Yeah,
count
you
on.
always have that.
And just so people know, like there's no fandom, right? Like
Yeah.
I have every hat, right? I got every hat for every piece of clothing that I can
Yep.
think of, right? And so it's like, yeah, you can count on that, right? Like the first time you see me without one, it's just gonna be either something happened or some
Yeah.
medical issue, right? It's got to be something
Something's
crazy, right?
going
The
on.
world's ending.
Yeah.
But I was always
It's
a
like
part
me
of
and
me.
heels.
Yeah, that was
you know?
always a part of me. It's real. Like
Yeah.
you can just, it's certain expectations, right? Like when I see you in gym
Yeah.
shoes, I'm like, hey, you good? You all right?
I know.
What's going
That's what
on?"
happens online.
I'm
When I
sure.
post in sneakers,
Yeah,
they're like sneaker sighting.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is hilarious to
I'm
me.
sure.
You
I'm
know, because
sure.
I don't even think about that really.
Yeah, and it's funny for me, like it wasn't even a real thing. It was just like my dad wore a hat all the time,
Yeah.
and so he
You
had a
don't
bunch of
even
hats,
think about
and so
it.
naturally, I started wearing hats.
Yeah.
But it's just it's one of those things where like you can be tied to it. In fact, we have a guest coming tomorrow that own a brand, and they're like,
Yeah.
hey, can we film some shorts about the hat because you always wear a hat.
Yeah.
It just becomes a part of your story.
Right.
Right, and so it's one of those things like figuring that out, but it's so many different ways to do that,
Yeah.
right? Like some voices are just recognizable, right? Like I don't
Yeah.
have to see it to know who it
Ryan's,
is.
I
Yeah,
would say, for
yeah,
sure.
Ryan's. I mean, I can go on and on about some of the creators that are bigger creators. Like
Yeah.
you know Gary V's voice
Oh, yeah.
without
for
a doubt,
sure.
right? Like you
And
know it.
just like the tone and everything.
Mm-hmm.
What would you tell people that are like, that struggle with talking about their family or like more personal things?
Mhm.
Not just like, okay, I wear a hat all the time, or
Yeah.
this is like my filming spot, you
Mhm.
know? But like, how do they share about personal?
Yeah, I mean, this is where you have to really tap into your creativity if you are the type of person that struggles with sharing and getting vulnerable.
Yeah.
All right, because I'm that person, right? Like I don't like before the podcast, you would never hear about it, right? Like I
Okay,
don't.
yeah.
I'm private in that manner. So the creativity came in with being able to tell the story without, oversharing or compromising,
Right.
the house in any kind of way,
Yep.
right? So now, what I always focus on when I share any type of family story or a story that I could be potentially vulnerable with, when I share that with my audience, it is to make a specific point. It's never just information going out.
Yeah.
Right. And so that point is being made. And when I'm thinking of my point and how I'm aligning that story, it is specific. So it's not sharing useless information or oversharing any information. It's to take me through my story from A to C. Right. I want to start here. I want to get to the peak of this story, and then I want to bring you home with my point.
Yeah.
Right. I heard this from a really good speaker, Ed Milet, and he talked
I
about
love
it was great. We got the opportunity to kind of just sit in his living room and kind of listen to
So
him and
cool.
Ryan film, and then hear a conversation afterwards. And one of the things he talked about is just mastering your story,
Mm-hmm.
right? Figuring out how to tell your story enough times,
Yeah. We
creatively,
talk about this a lot. Yeah.
add these pieces in because
Yeah.
you're the only one that can master it, right?
Right.
And so I watched him. I saw him speak at least 5 times last year, and some
So
of
cool.
it was the same story, right? I was almost saying it as he was saying it, right? Like with
Yeah.
him, like I'm watching a movie. But the cool part is that the way he delivers it is not the same.
I think
It's according to the room.
yeah, I was gonna say he like feeds off of the energy
Yeah, he
in
can.
the
Yeah,
room,
he's really good at
connecting
reading
with
the
that.
room. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep. But the power in that, he can do that because
yeah,
he's mastered the story.
right,
He wouldn't be able to do that if he hadn't got the story down.
yeah,
And so it's getting comfortable enough and figuring out what parts you want to leave out, what parts you want to tell.
yeah,
Right. Like I told the story of my mom at
mm-hmm.
WealthCon, and it's funny. Like I got probably 3/4 through that story. I looked down and my timer was counting down to the last seconds,
Oh,
and so I had to cut the story.
oh,
Right. And so the delivery, like I didn't go into how she was here, but that was only 4 months ago that it
yeah,
happened, and like I didn't get into like the real part that was really wanting to motivate people.
yes,
But the great part about the story is that it was so powerful, and I had
mm-hmm.
mastered it up into that point that I
Yeah,
could land it at the B. I didn't have to land at the C,
yeah,
right? And that's where the power came from, because you tell that story so many times, and you get so many details down to how you want it to sound
yeah.
and feel, that you're able to create it. And so your story is probably the most important thing to master, and everything else just kind of feels around it.
I want to like go back to that about your mom.
Okay.
Okay, and I really think, and for me, this is true. I hear this from other people too. But when you get close to loss, or potential loss, like you just, I don't know, you're faced with, okay, we only have so much time here.
Right.
And it changes your perspective on how you show up in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sad to me that we have to, it's like, don't wait till your mom's like,
Yeah.
life is flashing before your eyes and like, or somebody passes away. Like for me, it was when my dad died.
Mm-hmm.
It was like the most painful experience I've had so far. And it just was like I don't know, like a fire lit under me. Like,
Yeah.
okay, go time, like ready to live life.
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, no, it's so real, and we've talked about this privately. And this. I knew talking to you, you understood exactly that feeling that you
Yeah.
did, right? My dad died in 2020, and I didn't fully understand what having impact meant until after his funeral,
Yeah.
where so many people. I mean, his funeral had over 200 people there, but it was so many people that I had never met that had stories, multiple stories about the ways he impacted their life.
And how he made them feel.
And for me, I'm like, when did this dude have time?
Yeah.
Like, I only know the guy that goes to work and comes home. So I don't get to see all these other,
Yeah.
these things that are happening, right? Like, I mean, there are people that he arrested that are
Wow.
like, this dude saved my life.
Oh,
I'm like, he broke your leg. What do you mean he
Yeah.
saved your life?
he must have said
That dude
something.
arrested me, met me at the courthouse when I was released, and gave me a ticket to a halfway home that saved my. Like, these are all pieces of things that
I have chills.
I'm like, when did this dude have time, right? Women are like, yeah, my ex-husband was abusive. He got me out of that situation, and then he helped him. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, like this dude was like, and so I was like, okay, Justin, like your impact in life you got to do more.
Yeah.
You're not doing enough,
Yeah.
right? Because if I'm gone tomorrow, I don't know that people have these stories
Yeah.
about me. And so now I got to make sure that I'm having this type of impact on the world, right? Content is a way of doing that,
Right.
right? Of course, sharing your information. Somebody's going to go, he helped me when I heard him say this,
Yeah.
when I saw this video, right?
Yeah.
But then in real life too, like figuring out what I need to do to have those type of relationships and create that type of impact. But it was after that, I mean, I went home, and this is that peace that God can provide that we can't understand. When in most cases, when you are so heartbroken that you just lost your hero, I
Yeah.
had a peace,
Yeah.
because I was like, he did what he's supposed to do here, right? And I was like, there's way more power in completing the mission,
Right.
right?
Because he's in you.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. I was like, he completed what he was supposed to do, and now he's up there doing better than all of us.
Right. And now it's
Right.
your turn to carry on his legacy.
Yep. So day
Yeah.
to day is like that. All right. What can I do to
Yeah.
kind of carry this on and leave my own impact that is a representation of everything that he taught me.
Yeah. That's really beautiful. Like that's a lot of people.
Yeah.
I mean, that is like huge impact. What was his name?
My dad's name was H.B. Berry.
HB,
HB.
very.
That's his
What does
real
that stand
name.
for?
Doesn't
Nothing?
stand for anything. He's got two parents from Yazoo City, Mississippi,
Okay.
and I don't know what they were thinking when they named
HB.
that. So it's funny, like they were looking for an H name,
Yeah.
and they couldn't find a good one at all.
So like, let's just go with HB.
So they just couldn't figure it out. And then when I was born, they were looking for an H name because they didn't. He's a junior, by the way.
Okay.
So he's a second.
Yeah.
They didn't want to. He didn't want to make me the third. He was
Yeah.
like, no, he needs a real name. And it's funny because even in that, they chose Justin, right, which is a really close letter of the alphabet. That's how I kind of came up with it.
Okay.
And then everybody called me JB.
Oh,
So like
okay.
all my friends and family, it's either J or JB.
Yeah.
In that sense, so it kind of still kind of carried
Yeah.
in that way. So that's a cool little story. But that's how it, that's his name. That's how it happened. I mean, he was a 30-year Chicago police officer,
Wow.
and I'm telling you, like that in that moment, I was like, okay, like where at first I felt that it was cut short.
Yep.
Where it's like he's got grandbabies, like he's
Yeah.
supposed to spend that
Yeah.
time. Like all those things go through your mind, and then when you see the impact, you're like, yeah.
Right.
And so I got a 6-year-old that looks just like him.
Yeah.
Like I mean, down to some of the mannerisms.
Is he really?
Right? Like
That's
it
cool.
scares us sometimes stuff that
Yeah.
he does because he didn't get to spend a lot of time with him.
Right.
But it's scary some of the things that he does.
Well,
So
because
he's
you
still
can
there.
just see your dad in
Yeah.
him.
DNA doesn't lie, man.
No,
It's in you.
it's really amazing, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, and your boys are so cute. I especially love,
you got little
that
Nathan.
little one. Oh my gosh, I
Yeah.
could just
Yeah, I know.
squeeze
He
him.
got all y'all fooled.
Yeah, he's so cute. But as a dad, like, what I think is really cool is that they're going to be able to watch all of your videos
Yeah.
forever, you
Yeah.
know? But what would you like, I don't know, like if there was only one piece of advice like you could give them, what would you say?
The
like,
boys?
Yeah, that you'd want them to have like forever.
Yeah. My biggest piece of advice is to not move unless God tells you.
Oh, okay.
That's always going to be my word for them, because I want them to always count on the fact that He's there. Like
Mhm.
God is in it, no matter how it feels, no matter how like how frustrated you get, and really no matter when you feel like it's quiet for you too.
Yeah.
right? Like because we all had those moments where I'm like, God's not telling me
What to do.
what I'm like. Yeah, there's been no answer, and I've
Yeah.
been praying, but there's no
Right.
answer.
I feel like I'm in that moment a little bit.
Same. Like today, I'm in
Yeah.
that moment, but I know He's there, and I
Mm-hmm.
know He hears us, and so it's like I want them to trust that, right? Like I've been blessed to be able to make some really like big decisions,
Yeah.
right? Where I chose a college where I didn't know anybody, and
Yeah.
taking a chance and going to play ball somewhere where I didn't know. Moving across country to Vegas without having any family or any help,
Right.
right? Like all these things that in life that I've been able to kind of achieve, quitting a job and coming to do this, right? Like I
But
didn't know
you
how this was
felt
going to
called
turn out,
to do that.
but He said move,
Yeah.
and so knowing
That's why
that,
I'm here too.
but
Yeah.
you got to be obedient, right?
Mhm.
And your obedience is rewarded, and so that's always going to be my word for them.
Yeah.
And then if nothing else, is just have the confidence to be you, right? Like
Right.
the greatest thing about you is that you're different from everybody else.
Yeah. There's no other you.
It's the
There's
best thing
just
about you.
one. Yeah.
You don't have to compare. You don't have to compete. If you yourself, no one can compete with you.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that's what I would leave with them for sure.
Yeah. I feel the same about like my girls as
Yeah.
a parent. It's
Yeah.
funny because
You got
You
the
know,
cutest little girl.
it's like you can tell your kids that, but then we have to do that too.
Oh, yeah.
And we have to really remember that because it's easy to lose sight of that at times. The older you get, right? It's easy when you're a kid
right.
because you're, I don't know, so pure and
Yeah, and you're being told you're great already on the daily.
yeah.
Hopefully by mom
you're
and
so
dad
accepted.
anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but that is the hard thing for most of us. We have to almost like get rid of some of those beliefs that we gathered
Mm-hmm.
along the way when we were growing up that aren't serving us, and
Yeah.
it's not something we should hold on to.
Yeah.
But it took me a long time to realize that. I mean,
Uh-oh.
I was like 30
Yeah.
before I figured that out.
Yeah, I mean, it usually takes something happening
Mhm.
to
Right.
figure that out, or some type of desperation,
Yeah.
right? To really learn that, and I think that's why it's important to share that. And again, you don't fully understand things until you go through it, right? Like
That's very
life's
true.
experiences really is what gets you to that point, right? Like
Yeah.
we can sit here and sound like two old people if we want to really go down into
Yeah. I
life
love old
experience.
people for that
Me,
reason
me too,
because they
but
have the
I
best
didn't always
stories.
listen.
Yeah.
And so like now that I'm having some experience with it,
Yeah.
I'm like, they told me it was gonna be
Yeah.
like this, right?
Now that
And
we're
so
old.
yeah. And I mean, it just goes that way for any business. I think the upcoming generations are way more acceptable to hearing what people are saying,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like now, people understand like you may need the mentor, right?
Yeah.
Whereas, in past, like, especially for me growing up, it was like, I don't nobody tell me what,
Right.
you know what I mean? Like,
Tell
I
me
got
what
it,
to do.
I'll figure it
Yeah.
out, right? Like it was that kind of thing, and now I think it's kind of shifting
Yeah.
to more of, acceptance when it comes to having someone that may even be the same age. Like me and Ryan are the same age,
Yeah.
but there's things that he has experienced that I'm willing to really hear from him on, right?
Yeah.
Like I want to learn from that aspect. And luckily for us, we have the relationship where we can do it for each other.
Yeah.
But in most cases, it's like, I only listen to people that are older than me, or I don't want to hear
Right.
if you haven't experienced. Like you got to get through that, right? That's just a pride thing. And so I think even when it comes to creating content and understanding what to do in your content, again, like find someone that can help you, right? Like
Yeah.
I've had the pleasure of the last year and a half, almost 2 years now, of coaching all these different people.
I know. It's been cool to
And it's
watch.
been great to be
Yeah.
a help to them, right? Because I take no credit for the results.
Yeah.
I'm like, that wasn't me. Like I didn't do anything but talk, right? Like they had to go do it,
Right.
to really understand it. And so like, seeing now like some of the people that first started, they're throwing their own events.
Yeah.
Got this massive following and they're leading experts in their field. It's like, oh, this is incredible, right?
Yeah.
This is leaving an impact.
Right.
This is having like
Yeah.
real impact on an organization or people.
No, I think it's huge. And I think like being around everybody always says you got to be around like the right people and be open to receiving that information. I think that this community especially, that's what we do really well is we just inspire each other in so many ways. And I think that's Ryan's biggest strength in my eyes.
Yeah.
Is like he brings people together.
Yeah.
And then together, I don't know, we're just better.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
Like we're more powerful that way.
Absolutely.
So no, it's been really fun to like get to know you more and learn from you. I mean, I'm still learning so much. You never stop, right?
Yeah, you never stop learning.
So I've really loved the experience and working with our students, one-on-one. I think the biggest thing that I help them with is just showing up.
Yeah.
Like really not, it's like just pull out the phone and record something and then getting them to see what makes them special. Because just a lot of people, we don't see that in ourselves for some reason.
Yeah, and I gotta say too, Kay, like I know you may feel like that's your most powerful, but what I was most impressed with is that you hopped in and went straight for it.
That's me. Yeah.
Right? Like there was no fear in what you knew you were good at and trying to have that impact on the community.
Yeah.
And so like, it's like that is something that was missing, essentially. Right? Like, before you came about, before the Shaynas, like before all you all it was just men trying to teach other men how to do things. And then it was men trying to teach women how to do better on social media. And it was like, no, like, you know what I mean? Like there's only so much I can do here, right? I can give you a lot of strategy, but here's someone that can probably help you motivational, right? Like give you more motivation and can really empower you to believe in what it is that you're trying to do.
Yeah.
And so when you get that other side, now when you come back to me for strategy, it's gonna make more sense.
Oh yeah.
Right? It's gonna be, it's gonna go a lot easier for me now because you actually believe in what you're doing.
Yeah.
All right.
I think which is huge. Like I like to say it's like heart-centered content.
Yeah.
Like because if you're just like teaching me stuff and that's it, but like I don't feel your heart.
Right.
I don't want to watch it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I might watch some stuff, but I'm not going to be a super fan.
And there's the audience is they're different.
Right.
Right. What about the individual that can tap into all of them?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Those are the most powerful.
Oh, for
influencers,
sure.
Right. So it's like you want to have that ability.
A blend.
So
yeah.
I for sure want to say like don't like make sure that you understand the value here in
Yeah.
what you're doing because it's powerful. It's powerful. Like, and then I mean, you hopped in, you got on stage, you did all these
Yeah.
different things. Like those are big leaps, right? Like some people have been behind their camera for years and
Yeah.
have yet to actually get comfortable in front of an actual person. Right?
Yeah.
Think about how many creators struggle with the social in-person experience.
Yeah, that's my favorite.
They're amazing behind the camera.
Yeah.
You would think they're the most
You know,
sociable,
I think
extrovert.
that's an interesting point too, because I think that you're right. The more introverted people, they tend to be better on camera,
Yeah,
and then the ones that are good in person struggle
they
more.
struggle on camera.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. We should do a test study about that, right?
Yeah.
Like, see, we could just go through our community and go, okay, this
Yeah.
person was way more personable in person, but it's real. It's real. Like you know, I tell people all the time, like I've met most of these creators
Yeah.
that people are enjoying and like really intaking their content, and most of them are introverted.
Right.
Like
Yeah, it's really
large,
interesting.
the person that you love that's got that outgoing personality
Mhm.
on camera is really introverted in person. Where
Yeah.
you get them in a room and they say 2 or 3 words.
I
And they're
I
just
do hear
observant.
that though when people meet me, like when we've been following each other online and then we meet in person,
Yeah.
they do say that to me, like, "Oh, you're like you are
Yeah,
online
you're normal.
and like bubbly, whatever."
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, that
because I
energy
am
exists. Yeah, that energy
this,
exists
I guess,
online.
similar
Yeah.
to how I am
Yeah.
online, but
Because I'm introverted. Like
yeah,
I'm not the one. Like
right,
I can be the one in the room that is the most quiet person in the room
yeah.
and still leave
You
an impact.
observe
But I
too.
am. I'm very much in that way. But if I'm coaching
Yeah,
or if I'm online and I gotta I gotta be something like even on stage, right? Like
right.
in most cases, people my only reason I'm not uncomfortable up there is because of my experience in sports.
Okay.
I firmly believe that if I didn't have that experience, then I would definitely be like super uncomfortable up there because
Yeah,
I'm like all
'cause
eyes
that's
on
like
you right now, and
the biggest, like I think one of the biggest fears or something is public speaking.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and
Especially
I
when
don't
you
know
don't
why I don't mind it as much.
like
I
yeah,
just
and you know how we do here. We go no rehearsal, no.
yeah, but it's like I
I
don't
did
know.
my
It's
slides that
good.
morning, guys. I did it. I
Yeah,
literally did my slides that morning before we
me
get up in
too.
front of 1,200 people. But it's just
Well, I didn't
that's
get out
how.
in front of
But
1,200,
that's
but
how. But again, like the you trusting that God's first gonna take you through that,
yeah,
right? First, but then it's like okay, when I meet the person in person and we do have an opportunity to talk, I still
yeah,
need to deliver on who I am,
yes,
right? Because then they're gonna look at me a lot different. They're gonna feel a lot different about my videos if not,
mm-hmm.
right? It's the whole "don't meet your heroes" thing, right?
Oh wait,
Because they
what's
might
that?
be different. So they say not to meet your heroes because they're gonna let you down.
Oh, I haven't heard that.
Yeah, so it's like they don't you have this idea of who Michael Jordan is
Yeah.
to you, and then you meet him and he's a jerk.
Okay.
And it's like, oh, you're not that great of a guy. Like,
Yeah.
right? You're a great basketball player, or
Right.
you're great at what you do, but you're not that great of a person. So it's like, don't meet him, right? You'll never know
Yeah.
that he's not, right? It's that kind of concept, but you want to deliver on who you are also in
Yeah.
person. So it's like, yeah, you may experience that extrovert introvert experience, or you might be that person, but understanding, that okay, if this person is waiting to talk to me, and I see it, like they're
Yep.
like uncomfortable over here while I'm talking to you,
Yeah.
right? It's up to me to go, hey, are you waiting on me?
Yeah.
Come on over and let's start the conversation, right?
Right.
Let's get things rolling because you do want to still be personable, especially when you're a part of a company and a part of a
Yeah.
brand, and there's a certain message that you're putting out. So
And you do that really well. I mean, I hear any workshop or at WealthCon,
yeah,
when you speak, it really affects people. I mean,
Uh,
because they say to me, like, I just loved when Justin was up there, like
yeah,
his message and like that so much value.
uh,
And I think that obviously you're talented, you have expertise, but I do think it's because you trust in God to speak through you.
oh, absolutely.
It's like I don't know, like a magic touch or something.
It's the secret.
Yeah,
is having
it's a
him
secret.
speak for
Yeah.
you. I mean,
Because your slides don't matter. It's like
no.
nobody cares about your slides.
I know there's misspelled
know?
words.
Right.
I know. Like,
It's
I
not
know
about
it. Like,
that.
I don't even care. Like I am doing it because I just want to serve
Yeah.
the people.
Right.
Before this was anything, before I was in front of people, before I was actually trying to have a brand, I was behind the camera, right? Like
Yeah.
it was never to be in front. Like that was
Yeah.
not the mission here. The mission was to help as many creators that I could,
Right.
right? I just happened to get aligned with one that operates palms up and is like, I want you to kind of
Yeah.
build your own too.
Yeah.
right? It's just that is, a blessing. That's not me trying to like I'm gonna go over here with Ryan Pineda and I'm
Yeah.
gonna try to, collaborate and do it.
Right.
No, that was never the case. And so like I still feel that way about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I still feel like I'm operating from behind the
Like,
scenes,
yeah.
right? Like I'm up here because I got to help you out with this really quick, and then I'm gonna get
Yeah.
out your way, right? That's how I feel about it. But my goal, being that my goal is to help as many people as possible, I know I'm going to need more of those opportunities. I know I'm going to need to do more content. I'm going to need to do more stages. I'm going to need to do more podcasts, right?
Yeah.
Like in knowing that, because how can you reach the people if you never tell them what you got going on?
Yeah, you can't.
It's impossible.
And
It's impossible. You're no expert if you don't tell people you're an expert.
right, which is another thing that's hard for people because they struggle with like they don't want to sound conceited,
Right.
or
Yeah.
I mean, what do you say to that?
Well, I was. It's the same thing. That's a little bit of imposter syndrome, right?
Yeah.
Like that's what you're experiencing. But I never call myself an expert. I let everybody
Yeah.
else do that.
Yeah,
I
that's a
only
good point.
I only go up and talk about what I know.
Yeah.
Right. So when people are like, dude, I really liked what you said, I was like, I'm literally only talking about my experiences and what I know.
Right, my experience, my story. Like that's a good point.
Right.
Like this is my experience with all of these things. This
Because
is
the
what's
information,
worked for
I have
me.
the information. Okay.
Yeah.
Like I could go teach a real estate course right now.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because of how many courses I've edited,
Yeah.
how many videos I've done with Ryan.
Yeah, no kidding.
Like I could literally go teach the course right now,
Yeah.
but I haven't done it. So
Right.
I will never get up there and talk about real estate. I'm just not going to
Yeah.
do it. Right? Not until I flip my houses, right?
Yeah.
Like it wouldn't make it. So like if you
Well,
talk
you
about,
wouldn't have the belief because you would
there's no
have
conviction.
the knowledge, right? Yeah.
There's no conviction. Now having the knowledge is one thing. There's a lot of
Mhm.
people that have knowledge and then
Sure.
and go create and are experts in their field,
Yeah.
even though they've never actually done it.
Yeah.
How many people that you see talk about business, right?
Yeah.
And don't actually own a successful
That's
one.
true. Yeah.
Right? There's a ton of that online, right? But
Yeah.
they go stand in front of the Lamborghini. They got their
I know,
cigar in their
right?
hand in front of the $1 million home that's not theirs. It's an Airbnb that
Yep.
they got over there. And they talk about their expertise, but they've never actually done it or own any of those things. Right? You could do it if you have the knowledge,
Mm-hmm.
but there's no conviction in it, and you really aren't helping anybody by essentially lying to them.
Well,
I
and you're
won't
just
do
trying to
it.
get views. I
You're-
feel like
you're-
at that
you're
point.
trying to sell. You're trying to sell them
Yeah.
on something that's not real, and so it's a complete con. Like it's a
Yeah.
scam. But I would never do that, even if I have the knowledge.
Yeah.
Even if somebody was like, "No, you could talk about it. You've been with Ryan for 4 years.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. I haven't done it, so I'm not."
Yeah.
But I can talk about the content. I
Right.
can talk about the things that I have done, and so there's a lot of confidence in that. And again, it reads like people
Yeah.
can read through it. The feeling is not the same
Right.
when you got somebody up there like, "I don't know about that."
It is. It's like
Right.
an energy
Or
thing.
if you have to question, what have they done?
Yeah.
Right? Like I've never gone, I'm the expert at social media.
Mm-hmm.
But Ryan will say, you can actually talk to my producer who has helped me do this, this, and this.
Right.
That made them think expertise, not
Yeah.
me. Like I will never say that because I don't think I am one.
Yeah.
Right? Like I've mentioned the people that were mentors or people that I paid close
Right.
attention to that I learned from. Right? We've talked about that, right? Yeah, those individuals,
Yeah.
I got a lot of information from them.
Right.
Like I was early in on that and figuring that out and learning from that, but I got a long way to go before I'm the leading figure
Sure.
in it, right? So it's like, yeah, you just keep grinding it out and keep doing what you want to do. And I hope that people, it always resonates with people, right?
Mhm.
Like I hope that they understand like this is coming from a really pure place and it's not me wanting you to see me.
Yeah.
I want you to be seen.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. I like.
Like, it's not about me, right?
Yeah.
Like, sure, do I get the opportunity to speak, but that's all great. But I'm speaking because I want you to be seen,
Yeah.
right? I think that you can help a lot of people.
Yeah, and I think, a lot of conversations that I'll have with our students, because they kind of get fixated on views and stuff,
Mhm.
and I like to get them to think in a different way of like, imagine if you got one DM that was like, that one video helped me. Like I recently had one.
Yeah.
Well, I've had a few now
Yeah.
actually on this topic about drinking and how, oh, your video, I've been thinking about not drinking, and then I saw your video, and I think I'm gonna just try not drinking for a while.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, that's
Yeah.
like so cool.
And it's no
you know?
mistake that they saw that video at
Yeah,
that time.
right.
It's
Like
not a
that
mistake. Mm-hmm.
isn't me. That's not like because even me, not drinking, I didn't know that was gonna happen to me. Like
Right.
I didn't foresee that in my future, but because of my life experiences that did, and it was really powerful. So it's just like a part of my story, like you were saying, and inspired me to share more. But now that can help other people. Like, why wouldn't you want to help other people be healthy or be better in some way? You know?
Do you feel like the result of that video helps you get more vulnerable about other areas of life as well?
Yeah, I think so. Because, okay, for me, I initially would think, okay, I'm not going to talk about sobriety. Like, I'm teaching people about content and personal branding, right? Like, that doesn't even make sense. But it does make sense because that is part of who I am. It's part of my story. And speaking to like that self-awareness piece, I think that plays a huge role too. When you have a clear mind, you're able to really know yourself. And I think that's super important when it comes to content. And I mean, all of life, right?
Yeah, because people don't become a fan of yours or fall in love with you as the brand from what you offer all the time.
Yeah.
Instead, there's other aspects that they enjoy that they are related to, right? Like, so like most of my connections come from when I talk about family or faith.
Yeah. Right.
That's where most of it comes. Or I talk about the, coming up, like how I, all these different experiences, right? Or if I talk about playing ball in sports. Those are the comments that I get and the DMs that I get. Hey, I didn't know you, da-da-da.
Yeah,
like,
and they can relate.
Right?
Yeah.
That's where most of it comes from.
Yeah.
Most of it doesn't come from when I'm like, hey, here's how to go get 1 million views.
Right.
Like, it just doesn't.
Yeah.
Right? Because the majority of people can't relate to that.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And then they're like, he works with Ryan Pineda. He's Ryan Pineda's guy. I'm no Ryan Pineda. Right?
Yeah.
Like, so you're automatically like at a place where it's like, it's difficult to get to that point, right? Like, this isn't an easy thing to get to. It takes the grind to really get there.
Yeah.
And so less people can relate to the grind than can relate to the things that happen on the day to day.
And like the failures too, or maybe perceived failures, right?
All of it, right? The lessons, all right?
Yeah, lessons.
All right? And so it's like it takes some of those other pieces to really get people dialed in to hear what you actually can offer.
Yes, like you draw them in with those other things. But then they can see, I guess, your expertise in whatever field because they came in through other stories. Yeah, exactly. I guess.
Exactly. That's exactly what happens. I mean, Kim Kardashian gave you a TV show for years.
Right.
And the moment she launched her product, gone off the shelves in minutes.
I know, gosh. Yeah.
Right? Kylie was just a little sister of the show.
Yep.
The moment she puts out a product, right? Like, because you got to see the personal.
Yeah.
Right? You felt an attachment to the brand.
Yeah.
Not just, this is a good product. It doesn't matter.
Right.
I mean, product doesn't have to be good. But the attachment is in the person, right? Like, she either said something, did something.
Yep.
There's something that you related to that was like, you know what I mean? Like,
and so you either you love them or you hate them.
Yeah.
And you got to be willing to do that too. Yeah. That's another thing people don't want to do. They want to play it safe in the middle.
There's no middle.
You can't.
There's no middle. Like, you have to accept both.
Yeah.
Yeah, just both. I had Kendrick Bourne on, he plays for the New England Patriots the other day on our podcast, on the Creative Podcast, and he was talking about the haters, like, online. And I was like, I know you all go through it because all it takes is one drop pass, and now you're the most hated guy in the world. I go, how do you deal with it? And so he was telling me like something like he just ignores it. He was like, I don't pay attention to it. He's like, I accept it though. Like, it's part of it.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, it is part of it. When you're putting yourself out and exposing yourself to, a good amount of people, it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
But I also told him, I was like, nobody hates on the individual that's not doing anything. Yeah. I go, so when you want to feel like you're doing something right, check the comment. Right?
So true.
Because it's gonna be there. Right.
Yeah.
Like, when I got my first piece of like real hate, it took everything in me not to just get the Twitter fingers, right? Like, I was like, I got a little time. I'm gonna take. But then I was like, I should give him some type of value piece, right? Like, how can I help him in this situation?
Because he's obviously struggling, or he wouldn't be hating.
Because that took time. Like, you took time to write that. I was kind of like, man, this is really happening. Like, I don't even have the massive following to do this for, bro. Yeah. Like, you can actually FaceTime me on here. I probably answer. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not the guy. Like, I'm not. Yeah. So I was like, why are you doing this on here? But I was like, oh, this guy just surfs and just leaves it. So it was like, there's something hurting there. But you know what I mean. So it wouldn't be wise for me to do that, especially if I haven't responded to every other positive comment that has come in.
Yeah.
It's like, why take all the time to do that for him? And so it's like, yeah, that comes with it. Like, you got to be prepared for that. Some people aren't gonna like what you say, how you say it, what you
Right.
represent. It just is what it is.
Yeah, and I think, gosh, it'd be cool if that we could have an impact in that area too. Like there's a lot of haters online, and it makes you think like, what are these people going through?
Yeah,
Like why why are there so many
yeah.
people that are in this place where they have to pick other people apart?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, if you could convert a hater, I mean,
That's a
you're
big
making the
win.
world a better place, right?
That's a big win.
Yeah.
That's a big win. I think that's what's so dope about Pineda Company as a whole. Like,
Yeah.
people are coming to our events now not expecting a word, like a
Mhm.
real word. They're
Yeah.
expecting just some financial
Yep.
and business help. And so to offer that to them and give them the opportunity to hear that without it being like shoved,
Yep.
you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of power in that. And so your platform can be used the same way, right? Like, what piece of value do you give to the guy that's mad that you said this?
Yeah.
Like, I think my first comment was about um, I said something like billboards was like an old school way of marketing.
Yeah. Okay.
And so he's like, billboards aren't old. He was telling me every reason why it wasn't old school.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, you're gonna go spend $10K on that billboard, and only the people driving past it will see it. I go, whereas I can put a video out for free and get hundreds of thousands of
Sure.
views in an amount of time. So it's like, that's all I was saying.
Yeah.
I wasn't saying like you're old, bro. Like, it's
Right.
right. Like, and I'm not here to argue it. Like, if you want a billboard, go get a billboard. I don't care.
Yeah.
Right. But it was like, in that moment, I was like, oh yeah, that's not really what's bothering him.
No. No.
It had nothing,
Had nothing
to
to
do.
do with
Whatever it
you.
is, has nothing to do with the billboard
Right.
at all. And so,
It's like a trigger or
yeah,
something for unhealed people. And
yeah,
I think that's a lot of us walking around like that,
yeah,
where you're just perceiving things the wrong way because you need to heal,
yeah.
And
I offered him an MVP ticket to Welcome.
you did?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He didn't take it. At least he didn't take it for this one. But I was like, his response
You
was,
extended
"You'll
that, yeah.
really do that?"
Wow.
And I was like, "Yeah, you should come
Yeah.
here. Why I think you'd be smarter to spend that $10K on
Yeah.
social than on the billboard
Right.
in your city."
Yeah.
And then I was literally like, then maybe you can tell me still why you think opposite.
Right.
And he didn't, they're not going to take it most
Yeah.
of the time. But it was like, he was surprised that I responded in that way.
Yeah, like
Because
it's
you-
like
you-
we don't need to respond in more hate.
Yeah.
Like that's not gonna do any good.
Yeah, and most of it, I mean, like, we don't have to talk about it, but there's been things that have happened even within the company. Videos have gone out that just
Yeah.
weren't true.
Right.
All right, and it's like, so now you're trying to use a false narrative
Yep.
to paint a picture to people that's not real. Fine, go do that. You'll fizzle away, and this will die, and we're gonna keep
Yeah.
going and keep pushing, because the amount of people that we actually have a helpful impact on and actually we do help is way more than an individual that's not willing to tell the truth.
Right.
All right, and so go for it, bro. Like, you can have your little moment, get your little
Yeah.
10 seconds, but you'll be gone, and then this will still be going. Like, this will
Yeah.
still be happening, and people will still be having their lives changed.
I know it was really cool to see at the last WealthCon, like all those people that were praying over.
It's amazing.
I mean, you could like feel it
Yep.
in the room. It
We
was
could've-
different.
We could have went for
It was
another
so
hour and a half
different.
just on prayer.
I mean,
There
it
was a whole side that didn't have the opportunity to get there. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they got into a circle together on their own and prayed.
Yeah, I never
because
seen
of how
anything
many
like it.
people. Yeah.
Like even, I mean, it was just so different. Like it was cool. I
Mhm.
mean, you could just feel people changing.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
Man, I
And
just
I loved
yeah.
it too, because I was right after that. So I
Yeah.
was like, there's nothing like that
Their
warm
hearts
up
are
right there.
open.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now I know they're gonna hear me. Right.
Yeah.
Like, it was a great, like, kind of alley oop
Yeah.
for me to come right behind that. But I had that feeling like the very first time we did the worship.
Okay,
on
I,
day two.
I think I missed the first
Yeah,
one.
I think you were out of the room. But the very first one, you don't know, right?
How it's gonna land.
You don't even know how many people are going to show up. Right?
Yeah.
This is 8:00 in the morning.
Right.
In Vegas, right? You
Yeah.
don't know, right? Like, you don't know. The welcome party was the day before.
Yeah.
They was already kind of hurting after the first day.
Yeah.
So it's like I don't know who's gonna show up day 2 at 8 o'clock in the morning, and then I walked during the worship. I walked to the back of the room to get a video of the back of the room, and it was 80% of the room. And then before worship was done, it was 90% of the room. And then to see everybody's hands raised, I was like, okay, wow, like this is different.
That's cool.
This is a different feeling. This is a different feeling. And when I went back and I just looked at Ryan, and he was like, this is how it's got to be done. And I was like, this is it right here, right? Like,
Yeah.
even this past WealthCon, right? After the prayer, I was like, dude, we can end it right now. I
Yeah.
don't, like, this is, like, they're fed now, right? Like, they got more
Yeah.
than what they came for in this moment. And so, like, as we continue to go on throughout the day, that was always the topic. It's
Yeah.
like, dude, we almost should do that on the first day.
Right.
Like, set the tone from the jump, right?
Yeah.
Like, those kind of things. So it's like, it's just very powerful, right?
Yeah.
And that's why, like, you ignore the haters, you ignore the people that are doubting, and you just keep pushing. You keep pushing and being obedient.
And just keep showing up as you
Yeah.
and creating,
Yep.
So, no, I think we're doing some really amazing things, and
It's fun.
and we're just going to keep helping more and more people
Yep.
and growing in the process, which is amazing.
Yep. And now people that are a part of the community are doing amazing things,
I know.
right? Like
Yeah.
Levi, who
I know he was here today.
day one content empire days
Yeah.
of 101 is in Vegas today because he is doing his walkthrough of an event that he's going to do here in Vegas.
Yeah, at the
He's
end.
from Dallas. He operates out of Dallas, but he'll be at the M, 300-400 people of his event, right? And this is a year and a half into,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like this is fast, right? Like, and he's doing it, but I mean, he's already sold millions of dollars in virtual tickets. I mean, the guy is teaching content, right? Like, it's funny.
Yeah.
Like, he came in, learned it, and then now
Yeah.
he's so once you learn it and once it works for you, then you can be an authority in it and help others.
Yeah.
Right, so I can't wait to go in that room and just stand in the back and just watch all the amazing things that he's going to do for those
I
people
know.
in
I
that
want to
room.
go too. That's
Yeah, it's gonna be great.
in April,
It's in April,
right?
So just so you all
April's going to be a busy month.
I don't know when this is coming out, but our event is April 18th through the 20th, right? And then his event is
The 29th,
yeah,
I think.
it's right
Yeah.
after that, and so it's gonna be cool. We mentioned Omar and Sean Cannell and those guys at the
They have an
meeting.
event too,
Their
right?
event is right between ours and Levi's
Oh my gosh. And
at
then
the M.
there's another event Ryan's speaking at in my hometown,
Yep.
Vancouver, Washington. I was like, what? You're speaking there?
Yep.
That's like the 15th.
Yep.
So they're just back to back
It's all
events.
back to back, and Levi just asked me today to speak at his third day of
He
the
did?
event, so that's gonna be
Oh
cool.
my God. That's
So yeah,
so
it's just
exciting.
like all these things are happening, and the month of April's gonna be busy.
Yeah.
But I think it's gonna have so much, and so many lives are gonna be changed
Yeah.
in that month, in every area. All right?
Wow.
And again, looking at individuals, right? Like, technically, Levi is a competitor,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Omar
Technically.
and Think
Yeah.
Media and those guys, they're technically, you would look at them as competitors, but instead of looking at them as competitors, you look at them as like, how can you add any value to their room?
Yeah. Right.
In the same way that they can add value to our room, and in that you just see growth. From
Yeah,
all
it's like that
directions.
abundance mindset and that we're better together.
Yep.
I'm curious, so before we wrap up,
Get your WealthCon tickets.
get your WealthCon tickets, and your diamond tickets
Get your diamond
for
tickets
backstage
for sure.
passes.
For sure.
But who, like, if you could have anyone on your podcast that's alive,
Wow.
who would like be your dream guest?
Wow, Kate. So a lot of people aren't probably even gonna know who this is.
Okay.
But one of them would be D-Rock. D-Rock
I don't know about him.
D-Rock was the guy behind Gary Vee.
Oh, okay.
He is essentially the role that I am for Ryan.
Okay,
for
that makes
Gary Vee.
sense.
He's no longer with Gary, but like they kind of started this role in this space.
Mm-hmm.
So I would love to pick his brain
Okay.
on that kind of stuff. Man, alive right now.
Or maybe like on a personal
I'd want
level.
to get one of the Paul
Do.
brothers. I don't care which one, Jake or Logan.
Okay.
Doesn't matter. I don't care about any of the like antics that they do, but I feel like they're like leading in marketing right now and understanding how to use the social media.
Yeah.
So if I can get a lot of questions to them about how to go about it in different aspects. So like your entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
How could you do this on a professional level?
Yeah.
Is what I would want to know.
Okay.
Because I take that straight to what we're doing over here and blow this thing up so crazy.
Yeah.
So that's one. That's another one. Um, and then there's just minds. Like Erwin McManus was one for me that I really
like him
wanted
too.
to have an opportunity to kind of sit down with. But yeah, I mean, I can name so many like that I really would love to just pick, like really learn from. Like when Ryan talks about the value of just sitting down with somebody for a couple hours and having that consult, there's so many people that I would love. Cause
did you have like speaking of heroes, you know, when you were, I don't know, younger, who was like your hero? Like it was a public figure.
Outside of my dad.
Yeah, obviously your dad.
My public figure hero. I mean, I'm from Chicago, Kate.
And Michael Jordan?
It had to be Mike.
Yeah.
It had to be Mike. I mean, growing up in that setting, Michael Jordan had everything for you. Right?
Yeah.
Not only was he great at what he did, and it was like there was never a doubt of whether or not we were going to win.
Yeah.
It was like, I know we're going to win. Just give him the ball and get out the way.
Yeah.
Right? But then even outside of that, like, everything he did was, like, cool. Right? Like, he had the sports car. Right? The deep voice, the commercials. Like, the swag was all there for Mike. And so it was like, I don't know about now, because now he looks like he's jaundiced and everything else. But before that, like, you know, I mean, you know, he was everybody's hero.
Right.
Like,
he really was.
He was the epitome of what great looked like for his field,
but
great in general. So it was like, you know, everybody wanted to.
You know, one of my favorite movies is that little Bow Wow movie.
Like Mike?
Yes.
That's so funny.
But we could wrap it up with this because, you know, the concept of that movie is like when he puts on those shoes, he believes, right? Like he's amazing. Yeah. And I think that's the same thing with content, like in belief. It's like you just got to put on the shoes and be like Mike, right?
That's so good.
So I have no voice, but you know.
No, that's real. It's so real though. Like the shoes can be yours.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't have to be the shoes of someone else.
Right.
Like, but there is somebody that you see yourself as being on these platforms in this media space. Put the shoes on and just be that person. Yeah. And be that person for other people.
Right. No, I love it. I love that movie. So, oh my gosh, this is fun. We're going to have to do it again. I want to get on your podcast.
Absolutely. I might just take this and make an intro for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Repurposing content.
You know, we teach all of that.
Even though I had a few like coughing attacks.
That's okay.
But we got through it.
They never saw that part.
Yeah.
So we're
I didn't. I was like, I'm not rescheduling this. So
no. Thank you for having me, though, Kate.
Until next time. Thanks, Justin.
All right. Peace.
Okay.